Today's video will be the start of the Exponential Applications series. I'm going to focus on compound interest, which has the formula A of t equals P times the quantity of 1 plus R over N, all raised to the NT power. So the first thing you want to do when you see a formula is determine how many variables that you have. So, well, N is repeated, so we'll just count that as 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that I am going to be looking for 4 items in my word problem, and then the 5th one is the one that I'm trying to solve for. So A of t represents a future value. And typically when you're looking at it in a word problem, it'll say, what is the amount after so many years? And sometimes it's not given as a straight year. It may be given as months. So just be prepared to convert that. So if it said 6 months, you would write 6 out of 12, which is representing 6 months out of the year. Present value is represented by P. That's like your initial amount. If it's not money, it's just what did you start with? It could be like a population. That's present. So the difference is one is in the future, one is now or present. R is going to be your interest rate. You'll see in the word problem that it's typically shown as a percent. You want to convert it to a decimal. N, that is going to be the number of times that your interest is compounded per year. And, like how often, basically. And T represents the number of years or your time. Students typically get these two mixed up. So try to remember one of them is telling you how often your interest is going to be compounded, which is N, and the other one is telling you your years. So for your convenience, I have created this table over to the side so that you can take this down in your notes. It's going to be very helpful. If I ask you daily, I'm not asking how many days are in 1 week. I'm asking for the whole year. So there's 365 days in a year. So your N would be represented by 365. If I said weekly, same thing. There's 52 weeks in 1 year. So make sure you are aware of this chart. So let's go back to this problem. I'm going to use this problem to show you how to find all 5 variables. So we're going to start off with the first one to read it to determine what we're looking for. This video tells you specifically that we're using the compound interest formula, but there are sometimes you'll have a worksheet or an assignment that does not tell you what formula. You'll have to look for keywords. So the keyword here is quarterly, well, compounded quarterly. That tells me that I'm going to use this formula. This formula for, again, where it says quarterly, how often is my interest compounding? So that's going to represent N. For N, quarterly means 4. Then the next thing I would do, my strategy is to go to the question, what exactly am I looking for? And it's typically at the bottom. How much money will she have when she is 35? Well, if we go back to the beginning of the problem, it says at age 21. So that means that 21 came before 35. So that means we're talking about a future value. How much money will she have in the future? So that's the one that we're trying to find. By default, we should have all of this other information shown in our word problem. We just have to go through and find it. So the word problem says at age 21, Michaela deposits $5,300 in an IRA. So there's a number here. She deposits. That's what she's starting off with. That's a present value. So that's going to be P. So I'm going to write 5,300 here. It says where it earns 6% compounded quarterly. Well, we know 6% represents the interest rate. I said above that your interest rate should be converted to a decimal. So that's going to be 0.06. So 6%, there's understood to be a decimal here, move it back 2 places. And since there's an empty space, put a 0 placeholder and get rid of the percent sign. That's how you convert it. You just move it back, wherever your decimal is, move it back 2 spaces and get rid of that percent sign. Okay, and then T is the number of years. Well, I don't see anything specific here, but I have to do some work. So it says, how much money will she have when she's 35? So as I stated before, 35 is a future date. She started off at 21. So you're just going to take the difference between the two, which gives you 14. So T is 14. So now I just take this information and I substitute it into the formula. When I do that, I'm going to end up with A of T is what I'm looking for. I'm going to replace P with the 5,300, which I wrote to the side. I like to organize my data. You don't have to do it that way if you don't want to. R is going to be 0.06 divided by N, which is 4. And that same N is still on the outside, raised to an exponent. 4 times T is 14. So I took all of these variables and I replaced them by what I wrote over to the side. Now, if you ever have your variable set equal, if you have a variable on the left-hand side of the equal sign, or even on the right-hand side on the equal sign by itself, you can just automatically put everything on the other side of the equal sign inside of the calculator. So that's what we're going to do. So I have, let me find the calculator. I'm going to put in this 5,300, times 1 plus. Now here, be careful, since there's a fraction, go ahead and put it inside of another set of parentheses. And we said 4 parentheses. Now I have to put a second parentheses to go with the one before the 1. Okay, and then I'm going to raise this all to 4 times 14. Okay, then once I hit enter, this is how much money that she's going to end up having by the time she's 35. So since it's money, we're just going to go ahead and add the cents here. So that would be A of T is equal to 12,240 cents. That's your answer. Just make sure you put your $sign. Okay. So now the next section asks me to find P. I'm going to just keep using the same scenario. Like I said, you already know the answers, but I just want to show you how to actually find it. So this time A of T, you just said was this, right? The only difference is I'm just not going to put the 40 cents. You can, I'm just not going to. So I'm going to replace A of T with 12,200. So that is going here. And if you wanted to keep up with it over to the side, it's 12,200. P, we already knew. I'm sorry, we do know it, so we're going to verify. That's what we're trying to find in this scenario. R is 0.06, N is 4, and T is 14. Again, I am getting this information from this scenario. We're using the same scenario over and over and over. I just need to show you how to find each individual variable. Okay, so now this time when I see that there's a number on the opposite side of the equal sign by itself, that means the variable is alongside other numbers. So what I want to do is I want to simplify all of the other numbers and then put P after it in this case. So what that would look like, let's go back to our calculator. And I'm going to type in here, parentheses, let me find my work here. I had to write it down also. So parentheses 1 plus another parentheses 0.06 divided by 4, double parentheses here. You want to raise this again to 4 times 14. And now I end up with 2.3019, a long number. So when you are actually doing your work, what I want you to do is go out at least 4 places, and you might have to round. So like in this case, that 19 is going to turn into a 20. The more, the better. Okay. So let's go ahead and write this out here. So we can just bring down this 12,200, sorry, 12,200. And then what we just came up with was 2.30. We're going to round it. And I still have a P. So at this point, this is algebra. So what you want to do is you want to divide both sides by what's stopping P from being by itself, which is 2.3020. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So now once I simplify in the calculator, 12,200 divided by 2.3020. Well, actually, let's just go do that real quick. So that's going to be 12,200 divided by, now what I typically do is I take the whole answer. So I'm going to go to second and then the negative sign, which is going to copy down that whole answer so I don't have to keep typing it in. And that's going to give me 5299.8. Well, that 0.8 is going to round this up to 5,300. So again, we already know the answer. If I go back, let's just write it down here real quick. So P is going to be 5,300. And again, if I go back to my original scenario, I knew that my initial amount was 5,300. This is just what it would look like if you did not know that and you were asked to find P. So I want to also show you another way in the calculator. So let's go to the calculator where it says y equals. Where it says y equals, we're going to type in what's on this side of the equal sign. So let's go to the calculator. Y equals. And now we're going to type in, we're not going to type in, okay. So y equals, why can't I talk today? Y equals is represented by this number. So that, keep that in mind. What we're going to do is type in this part under y equals. So it will look like y equals P, which in the calculator, we're not going to use P. We have to use the variable X. So we're just going to replace P with X, 1 plus parentheses 0.06. You want to make sure that you put a parentheses within a parentheses. We don't want any issues. So this is the part that you're going to type in the y equals. So let's go back to the calculator. So y equals, and then instead of P, I'm using X, parentheses 1 plus another parentheses 0.06 divided by 4, parentheses, another parentheses, raise it to 4 times 14. And whenever you use this y equals screen, the purpose is to go to your table. So you're going to go to second graph, which gives us our table. This is where I'm saying where y equals 12,200, that is going to give you your X. Well, we already know X represents P. And we already know that P is this huge number. So what you would have done, though, is you would have gone to second window, and you would have told this table to start at a whatever number that you thought was big enough. We already know the answer. We know that when X is 5,300, then Y is 12,200. So this is, I wouldn't necessarily use this method when I'm trying to find P because that number could be huge, but that's how you find it. Now, if you wanted to reset your table, go back to second window, and now you just change it to something small like 0 or 1. To get out of here, you go to second mode because above it is blue, it says quit. So you want to get rid of all of that. So let's clear out this screen so we don't get too bogged down. Go back to our problem here. So let me go ahead and write down, well, I already did that. I wrote down those steps. So again, what you did is you went to your y equals, you typed in, instead of a P, you used the X variable. And then you also have to go to second window if you need to adjust your table start to change your, which is, this is really your table, I think it's called table set. And then you can change your table start to whatever number you want. Do not change any other settings, just the table start. All right, now using that same scenario, we want to find R. Well, we just said that P was 5,300. So we're going to go ahead and write that here to the side so we can keep up with our data. And whatever we write to the side, we're going to write in our formula. So what you'll notice is I'm just substituting into this formula. I already had the other information. This time I'm trying to find R. R is my interest rate. So if I ever have something before or after my exponent, I want to get rid of that first. And in order to get rid of the 5,300, I'm going to have to divide both sides by that 5,300. So that's what we're going to do. And now in the calculator, if I go and I do the math there, I'm going to end up with, let's just go over there and do it. So 12,200 divided by 5,800, it's going to, I'm sorry, not 5,800. I don't know why I want to keep saying 5,800. Clear. 12,200 divided by 5,300. Sorry about that. So I am only going to take the the 4 digits after the decimal, but eventually I will copy the entire answer. So I'm going to round that up to 19 instead of 18. My answer will end up being 2.3019. And on this side, I still have 1 plus R over 4, all raised to, and if you wanted to, I would. At this point, just go ahead and multiply 14 times 4 and get your 56. So what I want to do now is try to find a way to get rid of this exponent. So the inverse of raising it to the 56th power is to take the 56th root. So that's what we're going to do. Take the 56th root on both sides. The purpose on the right side is to get rid of that exponent and then just bring down what's left over, which is going to be 1 plus R over 4. Now in my calculator, the calculator that I use, I have to actually put the index first and then go into math. So I have to put 56, now press the math button, and I can either scroll down to number 5 or just type number 5, hit enter, and now put in the 2.3019, or let me, actually, I was going to copy everything. So second and then negative. That way I'm more precise because I'm taking all of the decimals, hit enter. So I'm going to get 1.0150 because I'm going to round that up. Go back to my screen here. And like I said, this is 1.0150. And now I just have algebra. What I want to do is subtract 1 on both sides. And I am left with 0.0150. And that's going to be equal to R over 4. Well, we know in algebra, you have to, in order to, the inverse of a division sign is multiplication. So we're going to multiply 4 on both sides, and that will give me my R. So R will end up being, let's go back to the calculator here, 4 times 0.0150. Oops. And that is 0.06. 0.06. Now, when we're given our answer, we want it to be a percent. So 0.06 is actually 6%. So now I take my same decimal and move it back to the right 2 places and then put my percent sign. And then I drop any zeros that are out front. So that's how you convert. Okay, so this is my answer. But again, we already know the answers. So if I go back up to my original problem, it tells me 6%. So now let's go down. And I just, oh, it was right here. So let's just copy. I was just copying this down so I don't have to keep scrolling up, but it was right in my face. So now what I want to do is look for N. I have two more, so N and T. So I'm still using this same formula and I'm just rearranging the numbers. I already know that I already put that in there, 0.06. I'm looking for N this time. Again, if I ever have something in front or behind of my exponent, I have to get rid of that first. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5,300. And we already did this one, right? We did this already. So that means that this is going to end up being 2.3019. And on this side, it's going to be 1 plus parentheses 0.06 divided by n, because that's what we're looking for, raised to the 14 n power. And if you put n 14, it's the same thing. We typically put the number before the exponent. So don't get confused by that. And now at this point for me, what I would do is put it in a calculator. So I know that this side represents y equals, and what would n be, which we're going to have to put in the calculator as x, when y is this number. So that's what we're looking for. Go to our calculator where it says y equals, anything there, go ahead and clear it out. And what we're going to type in is parentheses 1 plus another parentheses 0.06 divided by n. Well, we don't have an n, so we're going to say x. Well, we have one, but that's not what's going to work in this table. So we have to use x. Raise it to 14 times another variable x. Once I do that, I want to go to second graph, which is my table. And what I'm looking for is where y is 2.3019. Well, if I look at 4, that's where it's rounded. So if I look at the bottom where it says y1, it says 2.3019. So I know that's my answer. So x, which represents n, is actually 4. But again, we knew that already. So x, which is really n is 4. We knew that. I took it out of here because I didn't want you to see the answer already. But remember, initially it said quarterly, and quarterly means n is 4. And then this is the last one. We're trying to find t this time. We already have all the other information. So I just substituted it in with the exception of t. We do start the same process, divide both sides by 5,300, because that's what's stopping. That is not, this part isn't raised to the exponent, so we don't want to include that. We want to get rid of it. We already know that once we simplify over here, that's 2.3019. And now if we simplify this part, that's going to give us 1.015, and that's raised to the 4t power. So now at this point, you want to rewrite this as a log. So I'm going to take this side, go over and come back. The base of my exponent is the same as the base of my log. So log base 1.015 of my value is 2.3019, and it's set equal to 4t. Well, t is not by itself, so that means I have to divide both sides by 4. So in the calculator, let's go and do that. So we're gonna, to quit this screen, you will go to second mode. Let's go ahead and clear all that out. And to get my log base to change, because if I press this, this is log base 10, I don't want that. So math, alpha, math, or you can just do math and scroll all the way down to A, 1.015. And then I want my value to be 2.3019. Take that, and then I want to divide it all by 4. So my answer, when rounded, is 14. So we're looking for t, right? Let's go back here. So t is going to be 14. If I go back to my problem, it's talking about her age. 35 minus 21 is in fact 14 years. So we know that that's correct. The other way to do it, if you actually wanted to use the calculator, So you can go to y equals again. And this time you can use two different methods. When we first started, we noticed that y was 12,200. So we would put this formula in. So let's go ahead and do that. Go to y equals, clear out anything that's there. And we're doing the right side, 5,300 parentheses 1 plus another parentheses 0.06 divided by 4, double parentheses, raise it to the 4x power. Somewhere in here we have to have an x, okay? But the x represents our t. Go to your table, second graph. What you are looking for is when y is 12,200. So just scroll down. You can just keep scrolling forever. Oops, what on earth did I just do? Sorry about that. So go back, second table. You can scroll forever, or you can change your window set if you need to. Well, we already know when y, the column y is 12,200, then x is 14. So that's one way. Or let's clear that out. When you're looking at your work, you can also wait until you get to this step. So that's what you would put in for y equals when y equals 2.3019. So remember, this is y equals, where this is y. That's what you're paying attention to in the y column. So let's go back. And now you want to type in parentheses 1.015, parentheses raised to the 4x. Again, x represents t. Go to second graph, and now you want to look for 2.3019, which is really this. It's just rounded up, and that again is 14. So I was just trying to give you multiple ways or different options to figure out how to solve or find different variables. I hope it was very helpful. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Have an awesome day.